Hey, I'm Robbie,
And I'm Christine.
and welcome to the conversation. Hello, hello. All
Hey.
right. Hey, today we have the Fergusons together, and we are all just going to have a conversation here.
Got the Ferg fam.
The Ferg fam, it's July 16th, 2023, and
Do I speak yet?
I want to
Yeah.
talk about school. Noah does not want to talk about school.
You're not going to talk about school.
Emily doesn't want to talk about school. She's quiet as a mouse.
I'm saying maybe we can talk about today.
She's very expressive in
maybe
real
today
life.
She's
our,
very
Maybe
expressive.
today our conversation can be about maybe something like that scarred you.
Yeah,
like, if it
Noah has
scars
one
you-
incident in mind that he wants to
If it-
talk about.
Hey, it needs
scars
to be
you.
talked about. Let's talk about it.
So
Hey,
if it scars
It
you,
does need to be talked about.
I say let's do it. Let me just remind you though, speak right into the mic.
If it scarred you, then you should remember it.
Yeah.
You can't just scar you and you not remember it, because
Right.
then it didn't scar you.
Right.
It traumatized you.
It is pretty traumatizing. It was a big deal. Very
was a
scary
big
day.
Yeah. So basically, for me, my experience was, so basically, me, my grandma,
Yeah,
my
yeah.
aunt, and then my baby
guess.
cousin, my sister, and my mom. We were all together and at Disney World.
Mhm.
And it was an incredibly hot day. And as you can imagine, Florida or like Orlando temperatures being more near the equator. Um, so, so basically, what happened then was mom ended up passing out on. I feel like it was a simple ride, but at the same time, it was like 3D glasses, a bunch of moving images because it was like 3D on the screen. And even if you took it off, it was still going kind of crazy. So like, I would understand why. But I thought she was just trying to take a nap, and so I didn't worry too much. But then afterwards, after the thing was over, I tried to wake her up from her nap, and she didn't wake up. So she ended up passing out. And something I find kind of dumb is that the employee threatened to call 911 several times, like for an ambulance. He said if she doesn't get up in about 15 seconds, I'm calling 911.
Yeah, that's what he's supposed to do.
I know. No, I said the dumb part is that he said that for about 5 minutes, and he
I
said
know, because it's a big deal to call 911 whenever you're going to do that. Like, you don't want to just randomly call it. Like, you go like, "Come on, lady." Like, "Come on, lady. Are you going to
Honestly,
get up or what's up? Do
I
we
think
need a
he
doctor?"
was trying to give me every opportunity not to have to call an ambulance.
Yeah, because
Still.
that's even more traumatizing when you have to stay there waiting on the ambulance. But Christine, can you tell us what happened that day?
I wasn't done, but okay.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I'm
Here,
sorry. No,
let's
it
finish
really
hearing-
got him though, and I remember he's told me this multiple times. This was a scary day for Noah.
Yeah, I want to hear the rest of your
Yeah, so-
side of the story.
Yeah. So basically, the rest was
Speak in the mic, Bubba.
okay. So basically, the rest, Bubba.
Sorry,
That's what Cassie would call me.
it is.
Basically, the rest of the day, we slowly they actually had to bring out a wheelchair, and then we just wheeled mom over. There was so much cool stuff in the shop I wanted to get, but we didn't have time because mom was kind of dying over there, as I would imagine, as I thought. So basically, they wheeled her over to the little infirmary room, which isn't as magical as they make it look. Like, it's Disney. They would at least maybe put up a sign of Tinkerbell outside, but nope.
They try to hide it. They actually don't want to call attention to things like that. People don't want to think about having to go to the infirmary at Disney World,
It is a common
so they make it
occurrence.
blend in. But
It
yeah,
is a common occurrence, though, because a lot of people try to give birth at Disney thinking they'll get a lifetime pass, but nope, they end up getting banned from the parks because, why would you purposely try to give birth at Disney to get a lifetime
this
pass?
sounds like a YouTube video. I'm going to adjust your mic
Okay. Okay.
because I see you turning towards me to like talk towards me. So maybe if the mic
Yeah.
is pointed that way.
So basically, we went to the infirmary. We sat there for about 30 minutes before Yaya took us somewhere. We went on a little carousel ride, and then I think we tried to go on another ride, but then Cassie called saying, "Hey, Christine, feeling better? We gonna dip." And I said, "Okay." So we went back there. We had to leave. Also, whenever Mom got home, she ended up laying down, had a nice rest, and then she took a shower because gotta make sure she stays cool. And then the rest of the day went on pretty fine.
Mm-hmm.
It honestly, I feel like just the experience of mom passing out just kind of traumatized me because I've always saw my mom to be like strong, like never. would I ever think that she would like randomly just pass out, but
Mm-hmm.
then I remember how common it is. So
Right. Did you feel scared?
incredibly,
You did.
as I explained through the story, because she basically died.
Well, I did not, for the record, basically die.
I mean,
Didn't even come close.
there
I
are
was
people-
breathing. My heart was beating the whole time.
It is scary though when
But it
mom
is
does
very
that, and
scary.
she's done that to me before too. And you think, oh man, what is
She would
wrong?
just-
Like she's just all limp,
just
Yeah.
ding,
like she doesn't, and she's not responsive.
Mm-hmm.
death.
And I'm like, she's
Emily,
so
how did
soft.
you feel when that happened?
I was scared.
Yeah.
I was scared because I never seen you like that before.
Right.
And it was at Disneyland, so it was super traumatizing.
Right.
Disney World.
Has it-
Disneyland's in Florida. No, Disneyland's in California.
Has it made you not want to go back to Disney World, or did it not change how you feel about Disney World?
It made me want to take some time off of going to like a lot of fun places whenever it's super hot.
Right.
But
Don't be afraid to get right up on that mic, baby.
I also feel like that now I can go back to fun places
Mm-hmm.
without trying to be traumatized again.
Well, something that you've told me several times when we've gone into public, you'll say, I'm scared. And I'll ask you why, and you'll say, I'm afraid you're going to get sick again. So you've
Hey,
told
Mom.
me that a couple of times
Oh.
before.
I'm also super cautious.
Honestly, Mom, I remember the day after that we went to Universal.
Was it the day after?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I couldn't remember if it was the next day or not.
Yeah, it was the next day. We went
Yeah.
to Universal,
Mm-hmm.
and whenever we arrived, I told you whenever we arrived, came out. Remember, don't pass out.
Right.
And even whenever we got to the Harry Potter gates, I'm like, remember, Mom, do not pass out.
Right.
Like she had control over it. You know, acting like Mom had control. She's like, I'm gonna just.
yeah,
Listen, I'll tell you guys, one of my greatest fears is passing out or is having something happen to me while I'm with you guys, because I can only imagine how scary it is. And that was literally my worst fear come to life. I hated it. I did everything I could to prevent it. So that day, I get very, very easily overheated. So I knew going into the day I had to be prepared. I dressed cool, dressed in a tank top and shorts, had my hair up, was drinking tons and tons of water to
I
try to
remember-
stay hydrated.
I remember the day before we went to the Target
Mm-hmm.
and we bought a bunch of those little mini fans with the
Mhm.
sprays on them.
Yep.
And you had that every 5 seconds. You would just.
Mhm. Yep.
After we got off a ride, even if it had shading.
Yeah, I was doing my best to stay cool because I knew it was going to be really hot. And like when we were standing places, I would try to stand in the shade as much as possible. So I was doing everything I could to stay cool. And it's weird that it hit me while we were watching the Philharmonic show, because that's indoors, it's dark, it's cool and air conditioned. But I really think that my body was probably really overstimulated.
I'm guessing
Going
it was just
into
from
it?
like the show, because there's a bunch happening all at once. Plus, with the 3D glasses, it makes it look like it's actually happening in front of you. So
I've always really enjoyed that show. I think it's so much fun. It's a classic. I was looking forward to it, and I felt fine going into it. I actually felt like I was cooled off, so I felt normal walking in. Did you need to say something, Emily?
So actually, this is something really funny. So as soon as we were getting up, cause the show ended,
Mm-hmm.
I saw you. You were laying down like you were like asleep and something.
Bleh.
And I got so mad at you because I was like, oh my gosh, you did not even like watch the show. So I got so mad at you.
and there she.
Right.
But then
You found out that she wasn't
Cassie
conscious.
tried to start waking you up, and like everybody's talking to you, and like you were like waking up.
Yeah.
But I was still really mad at you. So I was like,
You gotta be kidding me. She slept through this whole thing.
So
I know. So when we sat down, it happened almost immediately. Like as soon as the 3D part started, I got really dizzy. It felt like my whole head was spinning around, and I started feeling sick. And then it just came over me. It just got black, and I guess that's when I passed out, or I slumped over. I don't know, but like I can't tell you what happened during the show. I can't tell you how long we sat there. I don't know. And it's funny, I don't know at what point I started to wake up, but even as I was laying there, it's like I sort of started waking up, but I couldn't open my eyes yet. It was almost like being stuck asleep, where you know you're awake, but you're still really, really tired.
Okay.
And I could hear people talking to me, but I couldn't respond at all because I was too sleepy.
It's like sleep paralysis,
Mhm.
except you don't wake up. You know,
Mhm.
how, like in like sleep paralysis, for people who've experienced it, like you suddenly wake up and you can't move no matter what.
Yeah.
You try to,
That's always scary.
you can't.
And I felt a little
Interesting.
confused even when I got up. It's just hard to explain. It's just kind of a blur. Me leaving there, and then I know we went to the bathroom, and then I went to the infirmary, and I was more awake. By the time we got to the infirmary, I was awake, and I was just feeling so sad. Like I just wanted to cry because I realized that my worst fear had come true, and that I had passed out in front of you guys. I was also really grateful I was with Yaya and Cassidy because I knew that you guys were safe and you were in good hands. But I hated that it happened.
So when are you going to do it again? Like, when's the next time? What's the warning signs that everybody should be aware of
Just
before you decide to?
Well, I will say this one experience was unique. I truly feel like the motion, like maybe I've developed motion sickness because I feel like that's what set it off in my head. I feel like that was hard to predict because it just hit me out of nowhere. I was feeling pretty comfortable going in there. I was not feeling anxious. I'd cooled off a lot. I was looking forward to the show because I love that show.
You know, like I feel like at first, Yaya and Cassidy could have been from heat.
Mm-hmm.
Like she passed out from the heat, but the second you step in, they have like these little like tent like.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the things that you have like on our porch with like little tent things. I don't know what they're called.
Yeah, but you wait inside
Yeah.
for the most part, and it's all air conditioned inside.
So it couldn't have been heat. I'm like maybe she passed out due to all this just the craziness happening.
Well, and I tell you what happens with me personally is when my anxiety is acting up, my brain will feel very overstimulated, and if it doesn't have some type of release, sometimes that will be the release as I pass out or my body has
Just
it
shuts down.
It just shuts
Yeah.
down. So like anytime I'm hot, so if I'm telling you, like if I get to the point where I'm like, hey, I gotta get some air conditioning. I got a fan on me. That's a warning sign. I'm telling you, like, because cold air helps me so much when I'm feeling anxious. So if I'm telling you, like, I need a fan, then I'm getting close to having an episode. Or if I'm like actually really, really quiet, almost like zoned out, it's usually because my brain is so overstimulated I can't interact.
Although I know what I meant. I'm gonna wait for somebody else to go and tell about their traumatizing stories. Because speaking of, because we have a new vacation coming up soon, Dollywood.
Right?
I have another one, but I want to let somebody else go.
Yeah. Well, I will say, even with our Dollywood vacation coming up, that thought's crossed my mind. Have you guys thought about, oh gosh, what happens if Mom gets sick when we're at Dollywood? Have you thought about that?
Yeah, because for Florida, it was kind of okay because we had Yaya and Cassie.
You haven't thought
but-
about it?
But for me, for Dollywood,
They will know.
I know.
but Dollywood's like, especially like we're spending most of the time at the hotel, and Dollywood, and Dollywood. So Dollywood is like, it's like in the it feels like it's like in the middle of like a forest.
Mm-hmm.
So it would take a while to actually get to like an actual town for like a hospital, like. Because you see little buildings here and there.
We just haven't seen the hospital. They have a hospital close by.
I hope so.
We just haven't seen it.
Mom, does anybody else, like Dad or Emily or even Mom, have
Dad,
like,
do you have a traumatizing experience you want to talk about?
No.
anything or anything that's just like scarred you a bit? Like you've always thought about this?
They would always, I guess, traumatizing experience that I'd like to share. No. Mom has also freaked me out when you guys was not even home. So
Oh,
I'm sure everybody has an experience to
Yeah.
share about Mom.
you
yes,
know.
because Mom.
Hey,
Yeah.
I hate it. I hate that I have that condition, for lack of a better word, and I hate that it impacts the people around me. But I do my best to manage it, and especially right now with me becoming more active and I'm eating healthier. All of that stuff helps manage the anxiety. So hopefully we don't have many more episodes.
Does anybody else have anything? So I don't
Nobody.
want to.
I have one.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Mother does.
Okay, one of my most traumatizing experiences was when Noah had his allergic reaction.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So
Yeah.
that didn't traumatize you or scar you when I almost started dying? How dare you?
No, I think, and Dad's perspective on it's way different because he wasn't there for most of it. You know, I had to call him home from work.
Oh, he was at
Um,
work? Because I
he was at
remember it
work.
happening.
That was the
about, like-
second time I was there for whenever
You're right. The first one happened at night.
at night.
That was the second time. You're
Yeah.
right. So what happened was you had a bad ear infection, and it was making you feel so sick. And we had gone to the doctor, and they gave you an antibiotic, which when you were a baby and you took some antibiotics, they made you really sick. They gave you the most severe diaper rash. It looked like you had a chemical burn. It was so bad. So we just avoided antibiotics for a while because we knew they were really hard on your system. But you were about 4 years old now. So the doctor was like, okay, let's try him again. You know, well, he needs the antibiotic for his ear. So I had given you the antibiotic, and it just so happens that day, Dad, I think, had brought home some cashew milk because he was like, hey, this is supposed to be healthy. Let's try
I
it.
do not recall it being that way, but
Was it cashew milk?
cashew milk.
mom goes through health phases
I do. I don't remember
where
bringing it
she
home,
was
but
like, no more dairy, and this is what we're substituting our dairy with.
the only time I remember doing that is with soy milk.
I
but
remember
that's
I
fine. It
remember
could have
the
been me.
yeah, I don't remember the antibiotics or
I
the
know,
was it
yeah.
the other one, the other pink medicine reaction. I think that's the antibiotics. But I do remember the tree nut reaction. That one was also severe for me.
Yeah. So what happened was the same day that we gave you the antibiotic for the first time, and it happened within maybe an hour of each other. I think you took the antibiotic, and then we immediately were like, hey, let's try this cashew milk. Here you go. So you had cashew milk for the very first time ever, and you drank it. And so what happens with an allergic reaction, too, the very first time you have it, it's slow. Like it doesn't hit as fast because your body is realizing for the first time, oh, I think I need to attack this thing. And so your very first reaction happened slowly. It started with your stomach hurt really bad. And then you felt like you had to go to the bathroom. And so I thought, oh, here we go. The antibiotic is hurting his stomach again. And so you were sitting on the toilet and your stomach was hurting so bad, and I just felt terrible for you. And then you started throwing up, and the whole time I'm thinking it's the antibiotic. I was like, here we go. It's making him sick again. Go ahead.
I do remember that. The main part that I remember was being in bed
Yeah.
with that little baby shark trash can that we still have. I
Uh-huh.
kind of like it.
Yeah.
I remember just throwing up. Like
Yeah.
some of it got onto the floor,
Yeah.
and you rush. And I also remember whenever they stabbed me with the EpiPen,
That was the next
Yeah.
day, but yeah,
to make
I
sure
had to do that.
you have to make sure that I wasn't gonna die.
Right.
I remember I was like crying, but then whenever I tried to help myself by like acting, because it was
Mhm.
like a big bump. Then
Right.
I'm like, ew, no, like trying to make it better for
It's
myself.
it's crazy how people remember things
It is.
differently.
It's interesting to hear his perspective.
Here's my perspective. I don't remember it that way. I
Okay.
remember that when I actually made he didn't feel well.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that I had the cashew milk. I remember I mixed some chocolate in it and stirred it up to
Mhm.
make like a really, really deliciously, because I've already drank it. And it was a
Mhm.
really, really creamy
Yeah.
chocolate milk, and I give him that.
Yeah.
And I remember us being in the front room, and he was in there, and his belly was hurting and everything, and he's laying on the floor. I remember when I picked him up to take him upstairs, because he was
He was
little.
4.
When I picked him up, I remember he peed,
Oh.
and I was like,
I remember, when you say that, I
Yeah.
remember it too. And we were like, that's weird.
"That's not normal for.
Right.
That's not what he does." So I
Right.
took him upstairs, and that's when we
just
put him
thought
on
you
the
were really sick.
when we put him on the toilet. That's when he started blotching up,
Yeah.
getting real big
That was
whelps.
the last reaction, though.
That was the one that night.
I
That
also
was the very first night when I was like, "Oh man, he is turning white. He is blotching up. He was gasping for air, and it was like somebody's got to go to the hospital right now. We're out the door, and it was you because we had Emily, and Emily I believe was asleep,
Yeah.
and I stayed home with Emily, and you ran up there to the Jewish Center,
So,
and
yeah. So from my perspective, though, the blotches happened. That was the very last symptom, and
Yeah.
that's what made me realize it was an allergic
And
reaction.
I was like, let's go.
because before that, I truly thought this antibiotic is just wrecking his guts.
Amoxicillin.
Yeah, I was like, it's making him throw up. It's making him have diarrhea. Like, I was like, this is terrible. So then I felt awful for you. And then you did start to wheeze really
Yeah.
bad because you dealt with asthma a lot
Mm-hmm.
then. And so we had a nebulizer. I truly thought that you were just so upset about feeling sick that you had sort of triggered an asthma attack. So, like, I put the mask on you. So you're sitting on the toilet with the mask going. And honestly, it didn't.
Oh yeah, the nebulizer.
Yeah, it didn't really help your breathing, but you also didn't get a lot worse. And so I just thought we were in for a rough night. But then as you were sitting on the toilet, you started getting red blotches everywhere on
On
your
his
face.
face.
And
Yeah.
that's when I told you, or this is how I remember it, that's when I remember saying, he's having an allergic reaction, you
Right.
know?
Right.
And
you
so
did.
we actually called 911. And
I remember. I think the firefighters.
No.
that was
No.
the next day.
No.
Yeah, the next-
On the first day they said,
Yeah.
we don't have anybody for you. You got to take him yourself. It'd be quicker.
So,
How dare
so
you.
exactly.
Exactly. That's
So that our county has grown a whole lot since
Whole lot.
then, and they've
Mhm.
expanded emergency services a lot. But at the time, they were like, we only have 2 ambulances for the entire county, and
Right.
they are both on a run.
And they're
So
on a
you
run.
have to take him to the
It'd be
hospital
quicker
yourself.
to
I-
take him
I feel
yourself.
like it would be
Mhm.
helpful for Bull County if they tried to like build a hospital here. So
They are.
Oh, congratulations!
good.
I'm glad you brought that up.
I was gonna
That's
say,
what I'm
because-
talking about. Some real stuff.
That's
Yeah,
right.
because
Great
we
idea.
have a police department, we have a fire department,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like I don't think most people who are dying or people who are going to the hospital in general, like maybe going into labor, having an allergic reaction,
Mhm.
maybe they can't breathe, or maybe
Mhm.
just ambulances in general. I don't think they have enough time to go pick them up and then drive 20 minutes to the
Mhm.
Louisville hospital and somehow find a good place to park,
Well,
or
the,
even
the,
find a good place for the ambulance and then have to bring them up to a room.
That's
right?
exactly what they've been doing this
yeah, the good
entire
news is
time.
that's what they're doing at
But you're-
that hospital.
So the ER that I took you to, they're building the hospital there, so that we'll have one here. But anyway, so yeah, the people on the 911 told us, hey, you got to take them yourself. I was scared. I remember it being like 11 at night.
Yeah, I was super late.
And thankfully, there was nobody on the road, so I was able to get you there very quickly. And it was scary because I was worried about getting a speeding ticket. And I even asked her, I was like, are you gonna let the police know? So if they see me speeding to the hospital, they don't pull me over.
I'm gonna let the police know that I'm probably gonna be going faster than a rocket ship
Right.
going to that hospital.
So I took you there, and they immediately brought you back. They didn't put us in the waiting room. They immediately took you back to the back and hooked you up to the monitors. They wanted to monitor your heart. Your heart rate was elevated. It was beating really fast, and your oxygen level was low. At the time we got there, it was like in the, I don't know, it was 94%, like low, mid 90s. Normally you want it above 95. People typically hover between 95 and 100% oxygen if you're just totally normal. So yours was just a little bit low at that time. And at first they didn't treat it like an allergic reaction. They were like, let's just give him some Benadryl. Like, it's fine. They didn't react as seriously as I felt like they should have, because I was freaking out. And during this time, you were in agonizing pain. Your stomach hurt you so bad. You were just moaning. You were doubled over, holding your stomach. They actually brought in a portable toilet to have next to the bed because they needed to monitor you, and so they couldn't just leave you in the bathroom in the room.
Question, real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Why do they think that it wasn't an allergic reaction when I'm over here just I have red all over my. I think was
know.
that the next night? No.
No,
I had
so
red all over my face. I think
mm-hmm.
honestly my stomach was in agonizing pain, and I think I was constipated. Just
Well, so I didn't know this at the time, but with some allergic reactions, they attack your intestinal tract. So it doesn't necessarily make you constipated but it causes pain, really bad pain. So it feels like you have to go to the bathroom, but really it's just the muscles like constricting. I didn't know that at the time.
yeah, it's also like you see me going.
Yeah.
I'm obviously dying.
Well, so you hadn't got to that point yet, but by the time the doctor actually wanted to give you epinephrine, which is what's in an EpiPen, your oxygen dipped down to 88, which is serious. I mean, it's not like he's about to die, but that's a very low oxygen rate. It's very much like this is not
At
right.
least it's not 70. That's honestly,
Yeah,
at least it's not 70.
70s is when they start to think about intubating you.
70 is dead.
No, not quite, but it's low enough that they think about putting you on a machine. And that I remember that aggravating me because this whole time I was like, this is an allergic reaction, right? And it didn't feel like the doctor was treating it that way. So the blotches on your face before he gave you the epinephrine, we were there maybe an hour or so with you just on a heart monitor and an oxygen mask. And even with the oxygen mask, your oxygen continued to fall. And it irritated me that they were just kind of letting you deteriorate. The rash on your body literally consumed your entire body, from your scalp to the bottom of your feet. There was only a few patches of white left around your mouth.
Okay, so now we can just say that. Now I'm wondering how these people pass the 3rd grade.
I don't know. I remember the nurse, though, saying he needs epinephrine, and so the doctor finally came in and was like, okay, well, we're going to do the epinephrine now. And I was like, you think? Why did it take you so long? So they don't give you a shot of epinephrine in the hospital. They're able to administer it a different way. I don't remember if it had to have been orally. But anyway.
Sorry, just stretching real quick.
Okay. So I'm telling you, as soon as they gave him that epinephrine, within 15 minutes, he was almost all his symptoms had subsided. He could breathe. His stomach pain went away. He could relax. His heart rate went down. His oxygen level came, it was magic. So, but at that time, this whole time, even the doctors was like, all right, don't give him that antibiotic again, And so they sent me home with a prescription for EpiPens. And I didn't plan on getting them because I had heard they were like $600. And I was like, I'm just not going to give him an antibiotic and he'll be fine.
Real quick, sorry to interrupt, but
Mm-hmm.
real quick. Speaking of that, real quick, the American health system, real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say, most people actually apparently avoid calling an ambulance,
Mm-hmm.
even if they're in excruciating pain. Like their back just broke. Either their back just broke, maybe half their arms.
Hey, sweetheart, don't put that in
Yeah.
your mouth, okay?
Maybe half their arms got sawed off. They're not going to call an ambulance just because they don't want that extra charge of the ambulance having to drive you. And especially whenever you're unconscious or even about to die, and they still charge you for that ambulance fee. I almost just died and or was unconscious, and you're going to charge me?
Yeah.
I get maybe charging for the actual take care part, we're actually going to fix you up.
Yeah.
I understand charging for that. But for the actual drive from the ambulance, seriously?
It's kind of crazy that Americans can go into debt just by getting sick or hurt.
Yeah, that's sad.
Europeans over here flexing on us with their free health care. Even, I think it's their taxes that take care of it.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
Good for them. Okay.
Hey, well, that was a interesting conversation to have.
Yeah.
About that.
Speed round for the end. We found out it was cashew milk because the very next day we gave him cashew milk and he had another allergic reaction and it was bad enough that I had to EpiPen him.
Yes,
So that's how we knew.
And we did get the $600 EpiPens.
We did, yes.
And I can speed round my own story that I was going to tell.
All right.
Speed round it. Basically saying, we went to Dollywood Water Park. Didn't wear water shoes on a ride that probably required it, or a tube, or a little air tube. I went down the slide, ended up chipping my toenail, almost breaking it off.
Ow!
The whole nail, not just that white part, everything on it.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, the water almost turned red from the blood. That's what I remember. And Cassie had to pull it out. And I was just...
He handled
screaming.
it. I was so proud of him. He
I mean,
did not scream. He did
same.
not cry.
I mean,
He-
I didn't cry. I was
He was missing part of his toenail and his
I-
foot was bleeding coming out of the water slide. But he handled it like a champ. We tracked down some Band-Aids.
I mean,
and
Mom-
we could-
So, do y'all have water shoes now?
yes, we do.
Yes,
Because y'all be leaving for that same exact park.
We
I
have
know.
them.
I mean, thankfully, because for me, I don't remember what the slides look like. So I'm just planning on wearing water shoes on any ride that goes slide.
Well, the water shoes you have, just stay on your feet. You'll just walk around with them the whole time.
I know.
How long will y'all be gone for?
6 days, Monday to Saturday.
9 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So
And
there's
then
my
when
speed
y'all
round.
get back, you'll be ready to go to school.
Almost, couple weeks.
And so after we get back, I'm gonna have to plan. I have to steal all the food in the pantry and the fridge, buy and or steal a mini fridge, and then lock myself in my room for about No. 9 months? I don't know. How
Well-
long? However long school lasts.
It's going to be a fun trip. We did 30 minutes on this conversation.
Thanks for having us.
Hey, thanks for being here.
Yeah.
I love y'all.
Jak to měl? Jak to dodám?